Good morning, all, and I would like to call to order this meeting of Huron County Council and to welcome all members of council that are with us today, all of our staff that will provide us facts and information that we can make decisions in the best interest of the corporation of the County of Huron and all of our 61,000 residents. Welcome also to all members of the public that are joining us and the media this morning. I would like to indicate that council meetings are available live through Zoom, and recordings may be posted online on County of Huron's YouTube channel. You may be seen and or heard as part of the broadcast, and your name, comments, and or presentation materials will become part of the public record. With that, I would entertain a mover and a seconder for the approval of the agenda that has been circulated, and that would be Councillors Anderson and P. Heffer. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thank you. Do any members of council have a pecuniary interest or general nature thereof of any agenda item that we have today? And seeing none, I thank you. We do have the minutes from the 3rd day of April for approval that have been circulated. Do I have a mover and a seconder for these? Councillors Bazinet and Vanstone, are there any questions on these minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Under delegations, petitions, and presentations today, it is a privilege to welcome Brett Kittmer, the CAO of the town of St. Mary's, to address Huron County Council virtually today on the apportionment of the health unit services. So Clerk Cronin will bring Mr. Kittmer in, and we look forward to your presentation. Good morning, Mr. Kittmer.
Good morning, Warden, and good morning, Council. Thank you for the opportunity. Today, I am presenting to you on behalf of the municipalities and the CAOs who participate in Huron-Perth Public Health. So as Council is aware, the City of Stratford, the Town of St. Mary's, County of Perth, and County of Huron are all participating municipalities in the HPPH. Under the Protection and Promotion Act, one of the things that we're required to do is agree upon how we're going to apportion costs. So before you today is a renewal agreement for the current cost apportionment agreement. This agreement has been in place since 2017, as first agreed upon by the Town of St. Mary's, City of Stratford, and County of Perth. In 2020, after the amalgamation of the Perth District Health Unit and the Huron County Health Unit, the County of Huron also agreed to participate in the same cost apportionment agreement as the Perth municipalities. Overall, we believe that this agreement has functioned well over the years, and the basis of cost apportionment is on a weighted assessment basis. The renewing agreement will extend the term of the existing agreement through to December 31st of 2028. That is really the only material change in the agreement that I have attached to my report. The one thing to note is that each of the municipalities does have the option to decide if they wish to renegotiate the agreement, and negotiation notice would have to be extended to all the other parties as of March 31st, 2028. So as I mentioned, we believe that the agreement functions well. It is a fairly simple and straightforward agreement that just sets out the cost apportionment agreement. And at this point in time, the CAOs are recommending that we do move forward and renew the agreement because it will expire as of December 31st of this year. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them. Otherwise, I'll let you enjoy your day.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Brent. Do any members of Huron County Council have any questions of Brent on this presentation? And if not, I would thank you very much, Brent, and we probably will receive it for information, and then I would offer your consideration for a staff report on this. So first would be a mover and a seconder to receive this for information. That's past Warden Guillen and Councillor Finch, that Huron County received the presentation from Brett Kittmer on the apportionment as presented for information. All in favor of the motion? Oh, please, past Warden McClellan.
Yeah, if I could just ask one question. I certainly don't have any problem with it, but the only person I would ask is our treasurer if he thought that there was any other way that we should be considered doing it, because I think it is probably the fairest and easiest way to do this calculation at this time. And if there isn't, I wouldn't even bother spending staff time doing a report.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to defer to our CAO on your question, please, for a response. CAO work?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I would recommend that the Treasurer and I have an opportunity to present that information in a fulsome way to County Council. So my thoughts are for a staff report to come back. Thank you.
Okay, so we do have a motion to receive it for information, and that was passed. And now I will entertain a mover and a seconder to request a staff report regarding the health unit cost apportionment. And that is Councillor Bazinet and past Warden McClellan. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thanks very much, Brent. We appreciate you joining us this morning. Do any members of council have any comments that they would like to make at this time under agenda item number 6? Councillor Anderson, please.
Thank you, Warden. Last night I received a phone call regarding County Road 4 and 25. Being as the hydro has been out periodically the last couple of days, people traveling on that road yesterday morning on their way to work when it was pitch black almost were in an accident because they said there was nothing to let people know that there was a corner coming up. And since the new lights have been installed, there's nothing to say that there's new traffic lights there. And before, when there were stop signs, people traveling east and west knew to stop. But they said, right now, it's not very safe. And I just wondered if that could maybe be looked at.
Okay, thank you very much for that comment. CEO Work, please.
Just wondering if Director Khalid had any comments that he wanted to make to County Council?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warren. Through you, we did become aware of that situation early morning yesterday. Hydro was out. The new lights do have a battery backup, which lasted only 4 hours. And we're looking into to see if that could be extended further. We also did review options for in the future. If that happens, we would like to put temporary stop signs out if that does happen. But it is something that was brought to our attention. We're looking into better options for the future. I believe Hydro did come back on somewhere around noon yesterday, so the lights should be operational. That's the information that was provided to me by my operational staff. So as far as I'm aware, they are working right now, but I can check into it again after the meeting.
Perfect. Thank you very much for raising that question and for the response. Is there past Warden McClellan, please?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I was asked to ask a question from one of my council members last night. They said they had heard that, and they were calling it out of the COLA program. I'm not sure if that's what we still refer to it as, but that the motel that we were using over the course of the winter, that we had stopped using it and moved everybody to a different motel. Now, this person said they weren't 100% sure of their information, but just wanted a confirmation on if that had happened and what the reasoning was if it happened.
Thank you very much for the question. CEO Work, please.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, that indeed has happened. And there are some aspects of the situation that my preference would be for us to have that conversation in a different venue, but certainly no shifts in terms of the quality of services that have been received by those who are participating in the program. And everything that I've heard from staff is that the transition has gone exceedingly well.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that question and the response. Any further comments from any members of council? And if not, thank you for that. We do have the consent agenda that encompasses 7.1 through 7.5. Is there anything that anyone would like to address in that section? And if not, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to approve 7.1 through 7.5 with actions as noted. Councillor Harding moves, seconded by Councillor Jay Heffer. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thank you. Under Social and Property Services, it's a pleasure for me to call on Barbara Hall. And I believe you have an individual that you would like to introduce. Barbara, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Warden, and through you to Council. I would like to take a moment to introduce Jamie Koskamp. And along with Jamie, Christine Hoffman, you've met Christine before. Christine's our Housing Services Manager. So welcome to Jamie. Jamie Koskamp is our Housing Services Supervisor. Jamie started the position in November. Jamie was our Housing Programs Coordinator prior to that and brings with her a wealth significant knowledge of all of the housing programs, and has our finger on the pulse on a number of programs and where we stand with all of those. So Jamie's here along with Christine today, just for some information purposes, and I'll turn the floor back over to the warden. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Barbara. Welcome, Jamie and Christine. It's a pleasure to have you both here at County Council today. And on this report, do you have any comments that you'd like to share, or you're here for questions to read? Okay. Do any members of council have any questions of Jamie and Christine on this report? And if not, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to receive the report as presented and approve the proposed smoke-free policy with the appropriate bylaws. And that would be Councillors Becker and Noel. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to have you with us and joining our team. Thank you, Jamie, and thank you, Christine. 8.2 is the new child care spaces in Goderich, and Cheryl Patience is joining us virtually this morning to respond to any questions. And actually, I believe you have a presentation for us. Welcome, Cheryl.
Good morning, Warden. And through you to members of council, just in addition to the information in the report, I just wanted to note that eyes would need to become licensed prior to entering into a service agreement with them. And licensing would take time, and the work required to ensure that the space meets the licensing criteria is what that startup funding would be used for. And that is what the funds are intended for by the Ministry of Education. So at this point, we're just ensuring that we're assisting them with the necessary resources to become licensed, which they are targeting to do before the end of the year. And so by putting those pieces in place, we'd be ready for the next steps when that occurs. So I'm happy to answer any questions should there be any on the report.
Thank you very much for that, Cheryl. Do any members of council have any questions of Cheryl on this report? I'm going to go first to Councillor Anderson and then Bazinet in that order, please.
Thank you, Warden. I just wondered, it does say about the priority communities in Huron County and the underserviced regions. In one of the previous reports, Hullet was included as one of the previous underserviced as well. Is there any hope of getting anything back there?
Thank you for the question. Cheryl, please.
Yeah, and through you, Warden. Certainly, there are several targeted communities in our directed growth strategy. Hullet and Howick are areas that are underserviced, along with Exeter, Clinton, and Goderich. We're also noted just in having high wait lists. So certainly that is the hope. We did put applications for startup grants out to all of our existing providers with the hope that some would be interested in growth. And we've only at this point had interest from EYES, this provider. They have expressed some potential interest in future growth in some of those other targeted areas according to our growth plan. However, at this point, we're just kind of starting slow because they would be a new provider with us. So taking a cautious approach in that growth at this time.
Okay, thank you very much for that. You're good with that, Councillor Anderson. Thank you very much for the response, Cheryl. Councillor Bazinet, please.
Thank you, Cheryl. The timing of this report couldn't be any better. Over the past 5 days, I've received 3 phone calls from frustrated parents in the town of Goderich alone, just with the lack of daycare that we're able to provide. Unfortunately, like Cheryl said, it might take a year before they receive their license. But I'm happy to see that we are looking at other avenues to provide daycare for people. So those are just my comments, Mr. Warden.
Thank you very much for that. Absolutely, we're doing a step in the right direction. Thank you for that. Any further, Councillor Finch, please?
Yeah, thank you. Through the warden, I'm just wondering, while we're on the topic of childcare, is there anything more we can do to assist staff in promoting or advocating to get more childcare spaces in the county?
Thank you very much for the question. Staff, please.
I through you, Warden, I'm really not sure. So the staffing, we are looking at workforce strategies to get more early childhood educators. So the ministry is funding that. However, it's just actually getting the physical body. So I know we've done work alongside economic development to kind of look at strategies, and it's part of that bigger plan of attracting and retaining folks in Huron County overall, I think, but it does come down to staffing.
Thank you very much for the question, Councillor Finch, and the response. Past Warden McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Just one clarification. The funding amount that's being talked about here, is this pass-through funding from the province just for subsidies for families that meet a criteria, or is this to help with startup costs?
Thank you for the question. Cheryl, please.
Yeah, through you, Warden. The startup funds specifically are for items such as construction costs, appliances. They cannot be used to purchase buildings, but they can be used for leasehold improvements, that kind of thing. So it is not actually for families. It would be for licensees that are looking to increase childcare spaces. So in total, Huron County was funded $405,000 overall as flow-through funding for startup costs to go towards our directed growth strategy at this point. So each year we will get a little bit more additional funding to go towards our directed growth strategy. But at this point, we have $405,000 and we're looking to use $300,000 towards the spaces in Goderich at this point.
Thank you for that. You're good with that, Past Warden McClellan. Any further comments or questions? And if not, thank you very much, Cheryl, for presenting to us on this. And I would entertain a mover and a seconder to receive the report of new childcare spaces for information purposes with the funding amount of $300,000 and that Huron enter into an agreement with the appropriate bylaw. Jay Decree and Councillor Bazinet moves and seconds. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Thanks, Cheryl. And would you like to also speak to 8.3, the Employment Ontario Service Provider changes for Ontario Works, please, Cheryl?
Thank you, Warden. I'm happy to answer questions on that. I will note that the Avalon-Maitland District School Board did put out a media release just recently on this as well, so that I'm not sure if councillors have seen that, but this report is just reiterating what was said in that media release, but happy to answer questions.
Thank you very much for that, Cheryl. Do any members of council have any questions for Cheryl on this report? And seeing none, I will entertain a mover and a seconder to receive this report for information purposes, please. P. Heffer moves, seconded by Alvin McClellan. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thanks very much again, Cheryl, for joining us this morning. 8.4, Mr. Kerslick, would you be so good as to answer any questions the council may have on the exterior improvements to 250 Picton Street in Goderich, please?
Hey, good morning, Warden. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do council have any questions of Jeff on this report? And if not, great report. Thank you very much. I would entertain a mover and a seconder to receive this report for information purposes with the amount of $275,769.60 for provisional items with the appropriate bylaw be drafted. Past Warden again moves. Councillor Becker seconds. All in favor of the motion? And again, that is carried. Thanks very much, Jeff, for joining us. Barbara Hall will address 8.5, the National Housing Strategy. Please, Barbara.
Thank you, Warden McNeil, and through you to members of council. So the Provincial Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing issued a communication to all service managers at the end of March, indicating the federal government's position on withholding specific program funding in housing. The funding on hold impacts the Canada-Ontario Community Housing Initiative, the acronym we call it is COCHI, and the Ontario Priorities Housing Initiative, along with new funding under the Canada-Ontario Housing Benefit. The Homelessness Prevention Program funding remains confirmed, and we can continue with our programs for that particular program. In terms of financial impacts, we are not able to support 88 monthly housing allowances to low-income households in Huron County, and this is a significant concern for us. In addition, funding earmarked for the Gibbon Street project, as identified in the report in your agenda package, is on hold. And also, we reached out to 2 contacts within the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing regarding the funding that was committed to the Sanders Street build. And we have received information that they are looking into this matter. We have a letter of committal last year, and that's regarding the $6.4 million for the build. We've received 50% of that funding already. We're due to receive 40% at any point. We're just having the architect complete the certificate for structural completion this week, and that means we can apply for our 40%. So we'll be able to determine where that program funding is standing. I reached out to 2 contacts, as I mentioned, and they said they've advised me that they're looking to confirm where our funding stands. So we're hopeful and we'll continue pursuing that. And once we have the certificate of completion for the Gibbon Street the Sanders Street structural completion, we'll put that through to the ministry and look to recoup approximately 2.5 million for that particular project. We do have a signed contribution agreement for that funding as well. And we're hopeful that that funding remains intact as well, but we are actively pursuing that. It is a concern across all service manager areas. There are a number of advocacy groups within the province that are pursuing this. The Housing Services Corporation is pursuing it, and the Ontario Municipal Social Services Administration is also pursuing that on behalf of the service managers in Ontario as well. So it impacts across the province, and it is a strong concern for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Barbara, for the information. Do any members of council have any questions for Barbara on this report? Past Warden McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. It certainly affects a lot of different areas, but just for clarification, Barbara, did you say it affects 88 houses where we have low income and it assists those people? Is that what you said?
Thank you for the question. Barbara, please.
Thank you, Warden McNeil. The public housing, the Huron County Housing Corporation at this point isn't impacted. It's not significantly funded. It tends to be mainly county levy, quite honestly, that does the public housing. The 88 households that I was referring to, they receive a monthly housing allowance under one of the programs, and that program's been in place for years. Because the Ontario Priorities Housing Initiative funding is on hold, we're not able to supply funding for those 88 households. So they're in private market, so they're not in the housing corporation that the county owns and operates.
Okay, thank you for that. A follow-up, Councillor McClellan?
Yeah, at some point, I guess I'd like a little more information, because it's one thing if you had to hold off on construction or something like that, but if you've got 88 families that are affected immediately and we're expecting some sort of assistance on a monthly basis, that could have a devastating effect. So I didn't know if there was any way that we could have more information of what's going on. Now, hopefully by the time we get to the next council meeting, the problem's already resolved, but that could be a bad situation for the county.
Great. Thank you for that. Barbara, please.
Thank you. And again, through you, Warden McNeil. Yes, I can provide a bit more clarification. So the program that offers the housing allowances, we knew was coming to an end on March 31st, 2024. And we communicated this information to the households months and months ago. What we were hoping to do is, when that program ended, roll it into the next wave of funding that was coming. We told the households that there was no guarantee that this is happening and that the funding is ending. And if we were able to receive additional funding, we would then roll them into it. So the households were made aware of it months ago. We recognize that it is still a concern, but it wasn't an overnight issue. It was something that we communicated months ago through our office. So if we do receive funding, we'll be able to roll it back into the program, and we're looking to continue the program for sure. And as we mentioned earlier, it is a strong concern for us.
Thank you very much for that, Barbara, and that satisfies past Warden McClellan. Councillor Klopp, please.
Thank you. I'll move the report for just getting it going.
Okay, mover.
But I do have questions.
No problem. So this report is moved by Councillor Klopp for information purposes. A seconder is Councillor Finch. Please continue, Councillor Klopp.
Thank you. Follow up with Councillor McClellan there. So there's 88 families. But you said that are not in the corporation. Do we get some dollars for people that are in our county buildings or in buildings that are shared by the province that were built?
Okay, thanks for the question. Barbara, please.
Yes, I thank you. And again, through you, Warden. Yes, we do receive some funding from federal government for our public housing. As mentioned earlier, the majority has tended to be levy for many, many years. The funding's been decreasing each and every year. It is in the budget information in terms of revenue that is received from outside sources, so either provincial or federal. So that is all captured and identified in the budget. But Housing Corporation is definitely levy-based for much of it.
Okay, thank you for that. Please continue, Councillor.
Yeah, and the acronyms, I appreciate Canadian Ontario Community. I get all that. I get it, I guess, but the dollars are interesting. So the homeless prevention program of $1,086,000 remains confirmed. Is that what you're referring to there for this money, or is that another pocket?
Thank you for the question. Barbara, please.
Thank you. Yes, the $1,086,000 is a separate program. It's the homelessness prevention program, and that's confirmed not to be impacted. So we're still able to offer our homelessness prevention programs, our suite of programs that we offer under that. So it's the 88 households are actually impacted under the program that's identified as the Ontario Priorities Housing Initiative. It's not the local housing corporation and it's not homelessness. Sorry, I recognize there's a lot of different housing programs and I'm trying to keep them clear for it.
You do good. If I can just, one more real quick.
Absolutely.
At the bottom, we have the two acronyms, and I'm not going to get in, but it's 418,000 and 257,300 for Gibbons. Is this new money that was allocated, which is great, or was this from a previous pot that we're pulling over there? Just for clarification.
Thank you for the question. Barbara, please.
So just bringing that back up on my screen. Yes, thank you. They are both for the 24-25 allocations. So that's the allocation that's currently on hold through this situation between the federal and the provincial government.
Microphone, please, Councillor Cost.
So just to confirm, it was new money we applied for, hoping to get.
It would have been, through you, Warden, it would have, this money that was identified is part of our allocation that was previously identified to come to Huron County. We earmarked part of that funding for the Gibbons Street build, and that amount, those amounts you see here. And again, it's for the 24-25 fiscal year.
Perfect. Thank you very much for responding to those questions. Any other questions of council on this report? Councillor Noel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. In taking a sort of overarching look at all this, it seems very short-sighted on the part of our federal and provincial governments not to get this resolved. And from the federal government, it seems like the wrong lever to pull to me. I wonder if this is an opportunity for us in our advocacy role to send correspondence to the federal and provincial governments and encourage them to get this worked out sooner rather than later, because it's impacting real people and honest initiatives to solve some of these problems that we're facing that are so serious. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. CAO, would you please care to respond to this?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Warden, we would be happy to draft up a letter on behalf of County Council, just advocating for a resolution. If that is the will of Council, we would be happy to do that on your behalf.
Okay, so is there any other questions on this presentation? It has been moved and seconded. Past Warden again, please.
So I'm assuming all this is the spat between the federal government and the provincial government about the strings attached to the funding that comes from the federal government to the province. Am I right? That's what this fight's about?
Thanks for the question. Barbara, please.
Yes, thank you. And through you, Warden, the federal government has concern with the number of housing units that the province is creating. And they're saying they're not meeting their mandates.
Thank you for that. You're good with that?
This is just a comment. This is a fight between the feds and the province. And unfortunately, these poor families get caught in the middle of it.
Very appropriate comment. Any further questions or comments on this report? It has been moved and seconded to receive for information purposes. All in favor of that motion? And that is carried. Councillor Noel, is there a subsequent motion that you would like to propose, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. I would like to move that staff draft correspondence to the federal and provincial governments and encourage them to get this issue resolved as soon as possible.
Thank you very much for that forthright motion, and a seconded by Councillor Finch. And past Warden McClellan, please, for comment.
Mr. Warden, and I'm going to ask the CAO for comment on this because she's much better at being political on these things than I am. But should we be a little harsher, because they're actually affecting some of the things we're doing to try and make housing better, but the actual argument between the two levels of government is that we're not doing enough for housing. It doesn't make any sense to pull the money back. It's counterproductive to what their original argument is. And should we literally be pointing that out to them, that they need to play in the same sandbox and get along.
Thank you very much for your forthright question. CAO work, please.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, we would be happy to include that information in the letter through to.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Klopp, please.
Thank you. Yes, I'll be supporting it. Clearly, the motion is the intent that we lobby, and of course, the staff will put everything in, but it's good that Councillor McClellan agrees. We make it a tough as letter as possible with the facts and get it out there and see what can happen.
Thank you for that. That is completely agreed on and understood. Okay, with that, we have a mover and a seconder for this. All in favor of this? And that is carried. Thank you very much. And Barbara for your report on this. We have nothing today under Homes for the Aged or Emergency Services. We do have a few under Public Works. The first will be 11.1, the Memorandum of Understanding with the restoration of the Blythe Tunnel. Imran, would you like to address Council on this report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you. So this report is a request to allow staff to enter into an agreement with the G2G Rail Trail Group. The agreement is a prerequisite for the G2G to transfer funds to the county for the construction of the tunnel. And entering into this agreement will allow the G2G to transfer funds in the amount of $500,000 for this project to the county. If there's any questions, we can answer, but this request is just for the agreement itself.
Thank you very much for that. Questions? The first will be from Jay Heffer.
Thank you, Warden McNeil, and through you. Just on the third bullet point under comments, it talks about what happens after the project is completed. And it says that assuming ownership would be passed on to the county and for the future repair, maintenance, and rehab. Don't remember those discussions when we were talking about this earlier. Maybe I missed it, but certainly I understand that doing this project, that ownership would be, because it's part of our road infrastructure, would become our responsibility that way and necessary. But the tunnel is for the continuance of the trail, and future maintenance, repair, and rehab work, I think maybe would fall on the shoulders of the trail itself. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for those comments.
I don't think we need to.
Yeah, okay. And I'm going to call on our CAO to comment. It is my understanding that this has been vetted through legal. Is that correct?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Warden. It has both insurance and legal have viewed the agreement, and the agreement that is in front of you is as a result of those recommendations. So.
Perfect. Thank you for that. So I will entertain a mover. Any further questions? Councillor Klopp, please.
Thank you. Of course, it's not about a legal question. It's about council tying a future council's hands on expenses. That's what this is about. And this is our meeting here where we have to decide if this is what we're going to do. That's why the process is here. Councillor Heffer has pointed out this issue. I agree. So if he's going to make a motion, if not, I'll make a motion that part, that point be taken out of this agreement.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to call on our CAO for comment, and then I'll come back to you, please.
Yeah, just in terms of process, when we did bring the initial report through to County Council, it was included that the expectation was that if we moved this project forward, we would assume ownership. Certainly, this isn't anything new. This was set out in the original report. So there isn't a change from that information that is coming in front of County Council. I think one of the challenges that we have as a corporation is that, and this is through the previous county engineer, that in order to ensure a certain standard of care and quality of the infrastructure, it is in the best interest. Again, this is our insurance is indicating this. It's in our best interest to take on the ongoing ownership of it to ensure a certain level or standard quality of care for that infrastructure. And that is why the recommendation has come in front of County Council in that form. I would ask if Imran has any additional comments to make, but at the time when it originally came in front of County Council and just in conversation with our insurance provider, that was the justification for why the asset would be treated as it is proposed in this report.
Okay, thank you for that. So there's no change in what was previously presented. Imran, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Through you, I guess the only context I can add on to ongoing costs is that we don't really anticipate any major rehab or repairs for another 75 years. Culvert of that type of structure that we're proposing, usually with water running through it, would have a lesser lifespan. But since it's there's no running water through it or anything, and it's a structure, we don't really anticipate any major costs for another 75 years. There might be some minor costs through the years, but overall, looking pretty good for 75 years.
Okay, you're okay with that?
No, I have a motion on the floor. You've just confirmed the argument that this council, again, should, if there's a seconder for my motion for discussion, but we have lots of agreements with a whole lot of town halls and groups that they're responsible. Of course, we also are keep on track of it every year. That's how it is. With regards to, it was brought up before council earlier. Well, that was then. This is why we have the sober second thought today. And so I do have I propose a motion that this part be rejigged or withdrawn on this at this point, and not just be responsible down the road to a council. And to hear that there's going to be no cost for 75 years, well, then in 75 years, the Trail Association can come to that council and say, we've got to do some work here, and you can write it up that to the lawyer's point, the same as we do with the town hall of Zurich. We have about 7 of them in our municipality. I'm sure you do too, with private organizations, that you have to give a report to, in our case, MTO or our county division here. But this here does tie the hands, and in 3 years from now or 7 years from now, if there is a big issue, they're going to say, well, we got stuck with it. We might not be here. But so at that point, this is the wrong way to do it. And I stand by my motion that point be withdrawn from this MOU.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there a seconder for this? And that is Jay Heffer. Now I'm going to just pause for our clerk to clarify the intent of the motion.
I was trying to find the specific clause and I'm not finding it.
Jamie Heffer can read it better.
Okay, Jay Heffer, do you have a comment?
It is the third bullet point under comments in the report.
Okay, so the motion, Councillor Klopp and Councillor Heffer, if you will be in agreement with this, that the Council of the County of Huron remove the following clause from the Memorandum of Understanding with the G2G. And it is, upon completion, Huron County will assume ownership of the tunnel. After assuming ownership, Huron County will be responsible for all work and expenses with respect to the rehabilitation, repair, maintenance, restoration of the tunnel structure. If this motion is passed, then we'll deal with the other motions because we won't be, G2G won't be signing that until we go back and forth again. Okay?
Okay, thank you for that comments. I'm going to go to past Warden Ginn and then Councillor Anderson, please.
Yeah, I was at the meeting that was held in Blythe and listened to the engineers talk about it. It's a steel-walled tunnel, and by law, they're required to design it to last at least 75 years. So none of us are going to be around when that happens, but I don't know that G2G is going to be around in 75 years. I think any structure on county property should be administered by the county, and the repairs should be done by the county to make sure they're done to the proper standard, that they don't compromise that road.
Great comment that I concur with. Councillor Anderson, please.
Thank you, Warden. My comment was going to be similar to Councillor Ginn's because that tunnel is under a major road. And so what happens if that road collapses and it's not the fault of the tunnel, it's the fault of the road? It can't be expected the G2G is going to pay that.
Valid comment. Any further questions or comments on this? The last word will go to Councillor Klopp.
Well, I don't know if it'd be the last word, but thank you. Those comments are I understand. The motion is first that we take us off the table, and then as it pointed out, well, then I'll have to go back for discussion. I think that is when, as I referred to earlier, what we do with agreements with at least in Blue Water, is we do be the watchdog. We do have written up that if it's the road causes the problem, of course, that should be a direction to the next council, apparently 75 years from now, if we believe engineers, that'll be clear. Or if something would happen in 2 years from now. But this here just is carte blanche that we cover it. Keep in mind that this thing was originally a CNR tunnel. I think the county, according to Paul on this G2G for many years, because he called me many times on this and made it very clear that he understood the position that the G2G has to pay for it, like the snowmobile clubs have to pay for things, like many other organizations. And he lobbied hard for me to change my mind and pay tax dollars money. Trust me, if you know Paul at all, that I'm referring to. However, he actually made a comment. He said it was so. I said, why was this even tore down? He said, well, you know, it's too bad the county did it, and that's frustrating, but that's here and there. So to the point of there may be a time when G2G's gone. Fine, that can be rewritten. I'm not disagreeing about those points. Rewrite this, that they're responsible for the trail thing. You can write it up that they have to give a report, that our staff will be continuously to monitor it. But keep in mind that it's just not a carte blanche as this is, that the taxpayers will pay for. That is how this reads, and that needs to be changed. That's the motion to pull that out and then go back and have it that it's a little more responsible for everybody. That's all I'm pointing. But first you need to pull it in order to have those very good points that are brought up by two councillors. I agree with them.
Okay, thank you for that. The parameters, and I will reiterate, have previously been approved by this council. It has been vetted through legal. I will now call the vote. All in favor of the motion? Hands high, please. Opposed? I indicate the motion fails. Clerk Cronin, confirmation, please.
The motion fails 6-9.
Thank you very much for that. Any further questions or comments on this report before I would entertain a mover and a seconder to receive it? And that would be for information purposes on the Blythe Tunnel, and that the appropriate bylaws be drawn up on this memorandum of understanding. A mover and a seconder for this, please. Councillor Vanstone moves, and a seconder is past Warden McClellan.
Recorded vote, please.
Recorded vote, absolutely. Not a problem. I will now defer. It has been moved and seconded, and I'll defer to our clerk.
I'm going to read the motion and then I'll read your names, and I ask that you say yes or no in whatever direction you vote. The names that I'm calling out are random order. That the council, where are we? Okay, that the council of the County of Huron received the report by Imran Khalid, Director of Public Works, dated April 17th, 2024, titled Memorandum of Understanding with the G2G Rail Trail Incorporated for the restoration of the Blythe Tunnel for information. And further, that the council of the County of Huron approves entering into the Memorandum of Understanding with G2G Rail Trail Incorporated for the restoration of the Blythe Tunnel. And further, that a bylaw be drafted for April 17th, 2024, authorizing the warden and the clerk to execute the Memorandum of Understanding with the G2G Rail Trail Incorporated for the restoration of the Blythe Tunnel. Moved by Councillor Klopp, seconded by Councillor McClellan. Yes?
Yes.
Councillor Ginn.
Oh, no, Vanstone.
Oh, sorry.
Vanstone.
Oh, sorry. Klopp, I'm sorry. Councillor Klopp.
No problem. It was moved by Councillor Vanstone, seconded by past Warden McClellan.
My apologies.
No worries.
Councillor Ginn.
Yes.
Councillor Vanstone.
Yay.
Councillor McClellan.
Yes.
Councillor Finch.
Right. No.
Councillor Bazinet.
Yes.
Councillor Klopp.
No.
Warden McNeil.
Yes.
Councillor Harding.
No. No.
Councillor Becker,
Yes.
Councillor Jay Heffer,
No.
Councillor Anderson,
Yes.
Councillor McClellan,
Yes.
Councillor Noel,
Yes.
Councillor Dietrich,
No.
Councillor P. Heffer.
No.
The motion passes 9-6.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And thank you very much, Imran, for bringing that forward to us. Would you also please address us on 11.2, and that is a recommendation to award the tender for the construction of the trail and tunnel, the G2G rail trail tunnel. Imran, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you. So this report is for the award of tender 24-506 for the construction of the G2G rail trail tunnel under County Road 25, just west of Blythe. The proposed motion is to award the project to Levis Contracting Company as the low bid, conditional upon confirmation of transfer of funds to the county by the G2G Rail Trail Group. Any surplus from this project will be transferred back to the G2G Rail Trail Group at the end of the project.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Imran. Questions or comments on this? And I'll go to Councillor Klopp first, please.
Thank you. In the history of the project, which goes back a long ways, as I pointed out earlier, was on as deputy mayor here off and on, and a number of the groups talked about this, and it was passed by motion, I believe, that at some point that the funding be totally paid for by the G2G. And they estimated this 500,000 that was always talked about, that was from a B. Can I confirm that was like from an engineer's report, or was that just number pulled out of the air?
That's your question. I will defer to Imran, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Yes, that was from an engineer's report, a preliminary estimate of the project. Correct.
So, and back in 2017, and I totally get that the council, through RTO, provincial dollar funding, I believe, or maybe federal provincial, and Huron County, though, did put 100,000 in. I believe that's probably where they got the BM Ross report. Engineers paid for some things like that. And that was council's direction. So as we go through this here, there was, I guess this is where we arrive at $80,000 was not used. Kudos to BM Ross for not having to spend 100,000. I'll give them 100% on that. Thank you very much. But it is clearly that the group was to fund the 500,000, which to their benefit, and they did, they have. The good thing is the tenders come in cheaper. But at the end of the day, really that 80,000 should be going back to where it belongs, because that's what would normally do when we have we put dollars into something, and if it comes in less or whatever, it goes back to the coffers. And I think if anybody's looked at our budget and looked at discussions that we've just got finishing arguing about that government should cough up money, we really, I think the intent of this is that the 80,000 goes back. That was I'm sure what many have thought. Clearly, this group was made clear of that by a motion of a council. So I'm making a motion here that the $80,000 be put back to the county and put back, I guess, 50-50 or whatever, because it was 50,000 each, so half back to the county and then to RTO4. And if the province needs to get it back, we'll give it back to them, and maybe they'll have money for us for our for the homes and for our other issues that we talked about. But anyway, that's my motion, that the 80,000 be put back to the county.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a seconder for it? That is seconded by Alvin McClellan. Any further questions or comments? I'm going to go to past Warden McClellan first, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you to all of council. I certainly understand the position that Councillor Klopp is taking. And in fairness, I don't think when the 100,000 was asked for that I was in favor of it at the time. But there were some really good arguments made about the fact that the G2G was part of economic development for Huron County as a whole, and that this was going to be our investment into it. The fact that they will have approximately $80,000 left over, I'm not opposed to that because I want them to keep spending the money on the trail, keeping the trail up to snuff so that it actually gets used and we do get some economic development into the county through the trail system. It's money that we had already spent. Council had agreed on it, and there was discussion that it was for the benefit of economic development in the county going forward. And although I didn't agree with the payment at the time, now that we've spent it, I'd like to leave the money where it is.
Thank you for those comments. Alvin McClellan and Past Warden Ginn, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, through you to Imran. I guess my thoughts about the $80,000 maybe revolves around the detour. So obviously this is going to be an open cut of the road, so the road's going to be closed. The detour that you design, maybe whether you have or have not, is going to involve extra maintenance on them roads to keep them up, because they're certainly going to have a lot more traffic than what they're used to. So I don't know whether it be on paved roads your detour will be or whether gravel roads will be involved, but I guess that's what my thinking was. Thank you.
Okay, that's your question, Imran.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, through you. I'm going to maybe defer that to Will, if in case, do you have off the top of your head the detour? We haven't, I don't think we finalized the detour. That's always something open for discussion with the contractor. Detours are pretty standard in projects. There is a little bit of extra maintenance with maybe possibly shouldering. Nothing significant. And if we did have to put some costs into some maintenance, those would go against the project and it would reduce the what's available to go back to the G2G effectively. So all of those costs, if incurred, would be charged against the project and would go. But we don't expect any major pavement issues in terms of the detour itself.
Thank you for the, that follow-up, Councillor
Yes,
McClellan.
please. Thank you very much. Through you again. Any anticipated start date? I know through your public meeting, there was lots of discussions around the various types of season and the theater and stuff like that.
Thank you for the question. Imran, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, through you. The date that has been indicated by the contractor in this tender is a fall construction. We are hopeful to start it sooner, and we will negotiate that if the project gets awarded. Anytime you negotiate that, there might be maybe additional costs, but so that's something we would have to evaluate as to whether it's worth it to go into a spring construction or not.
Okay, thank you for that. That satisfies Councillor McClellan. Past Warden Ginn, please.
Yeah, thank you. I have 2 points that I'd like to bring up, and the detours are going to be on Central Huron roads, and we're quite fine with that. It's for a month. It's not a big deal. The other thing is this motion is about accepting a tender. I'd like this discussion to be separated. If council's desire is to, claw back some of the money that they've invested, that's fine. But as I read this, is just about accepting the lowest tender. So with that, and I would like economic development to bring back some information. The tunnel will increase access to the trail, but the big one is the bridge over the Maitland River, and that's still their goal. But there is a trail in Quebec that I know that they talked about originally, and the dollars that it generated from tourism and spending in the local economy, I don't know whether economic development can find those numbers for it, but I know I was staggered by the amount of money that trail brought in to the local economy. And I think, as soon as this trail is completed with the bridge over the Maitland, we will be the beneficiaries of a lot of those types of dollars as well. So anyways, I would like to see this motion voted on as a motion to accept a tender and have the other discussion at a later date.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to defer to our clerk on this before I go to Councillor Vanstone, please.
Thank you, Warden McNeil. At this time, we have a motion that has been moved and seconded, and that is on the floor, and we need to deal with that one prior to dealing with the tender motion, which I do understand we haven't actually accepted the tender, so it'd be difficult to say, but we have this motion on the floor. We do need to deal with it first.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Van Stone, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, or excuse me, Mr. Warden. I should have brought this up at the last motion that was brought up, and the money that is here, I think, should stay in the trail. Way back when this first happened and they were building the bridge and they were going to have this trail, I was against it, and really against it. And I was dead wrong. This trail has brought thousands of people into Huron County, and it's a real asset. My wife and I walk it. We have met people on that trail from Guelph, from all over the country, and they come here. One couple I talked to was staying at the Salford Hotel. They ate at a lot of restaurants in town. They did some shopping around. This is an asset. We do not want to drive it away. And I'm sorry, this isn't really relevant to the motion that's on the floor, but I should have brought it up before. We need to have this trail. It's amazing what it does for Huron County, and I thank you.
Thank you for that. This is a collaborative effort between not only G to G Huron County, a lot of our residents in Huron County and visitors to Huron County that spend money when they're here. I'm going to defer back to our clerk to read the motion, then we're going to vote on it.
Okay, I have moved by Councillor Klopp and seconded by Councillor McClellan that the Council of the County of Huron requests the surplus from the G2G Trail Tunnel Project tender be returned to the County of Huron.
I think a little clarification, Councillor Klopp, please.
Yeah, it's the county dollars that is going to be left over, the county and the RTO4. There's other surplus that they will get. There's some money left over, but it's only the money that the county put in, whatever is left over of the county dollars and the RTO4. Right now there's 80,000, but by the time it's done, when they're done, they might need 20,000 more for who knows what. The intent is the dollars, that's my motion, because they're not stopping the project unless it gets turned down, but this is only the dollars issue.
Okay, clerk, please.
If I'm understanding you, the Council of the County of Huron requests the county contribution surplus from the G2G Trail Tunnel Project tender be returned to the County of Huron.
Gets it. I look to my seconder.
Councillor McClellan, comment, please.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to vote
Warden.
against.
I'm sorry, I meant Alvin McClellan is second the motion. I'm going to go to Alvin first, and then I'll go to the past word.
Still vote against it, but you made the motion.
Through you, Mr. Warden, actually, I was going to vote against it. I just want to get it on the floor for discussion.
I kind of thought that. Past Warden McClellan and then Councillor Harding.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I'm not going to vote for the motion as it is, but I have a concern. If we clawed back when the county put in their money and RTO4 put in their money, was there any agreement as in who was paying what percentages to even get the grant from the province? And if we claw back, does that mean some of the grant money gets clawed back also? Because I certainly wouldn't want to be in that position.
Thanks for the question. I will defer to our CAO, please.
Yeah, that would be information that we would have to investigate should this motion move forward.
Okay, Councillor Harding, please.
This is getting very confusing. What I would like to say is that this project, we're glad it came in under the 500,000. So now we have 80,000 left. And I think after hearing what people are saying, I don't think we should be separating. I think we should be keeping that 80,000, hoping we don't go over budget and need it, but to have it if we need it going down the road. I don't think we should be worrying about clawing it back to where. I think we've got to see this project through it past. Now we have to see what's left of that 500,000. And I think we should be, it should be for this trail down the road that if, I don't know whether that can be accomplished or not.
Thank you for that. That is the final comment. The motion, everyone's clear. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? The motion is defeated. Thank you very much for that. Are there any other questions on this tender? And if not, I will entertain a mover and a seconder to receive the report by Imran and award the tender to Lavis Contracting in the amount of $414,557 with the appropriate bylaw be made. And that is Councillors Vanstone and P. Heffer. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Imran, for responding to this. That dovetails into 11.3, and Imran will also speak to the urban Dashwood reconstruction. And it is a pleasure to also welcome Dale Erb from BM Ross to answer any engineering questions. So first to Imran, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Through you. So this report is for the award of contract 24-302 to Vanbury Drainage for the Dashwood urban reconstruction project. I'll just walk through the report. There's a lot of financial information there. I'll try to break it down as best as I can, so just bear with me. So what we're recommending with the tender, with this report, is the award of the tender, which has a total tender price of $7,153. That is the total value of the project. The Huron County share of that project is $5,373,063. The remainder of the project will be funded by Municipality of Blue Water in South Huron, and they're still working out how that split is going to work for them. The project is split into 3 phases. So there's a table in the report that breaks down the costs over the years. So phase 1 will be 2024. We're expecting a total cost of $2,981,370. Phase 2, which is next year, will be $2,178,757. Phase 3, 2026, will be just remedial work and surface course asphalt, which is $212,936. We just want to point out that by awarding this tender, the county will be committed to over a 3-year funding period, as noted above, in the phasing of the project. And the additional budget funds will have to be raised in both 2025 and 2026 for this project. The financial table breaks down the cost for this year. So the total project expenses for this year are $3,468,187, of which the $2.9 million roughly is this tender that we're recommending for award. We've also tried our best to predict the future costs for phase 2 and phase 3 that will give council an idea of what kind of funding will need to be raised for upcoming years. If there's any technical questions about the project related to phasing and how that's going to do it, Dale will be happy to answer. And yeah.
Thank you very much for that, Imran. The first will be to Councillor Noel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. My question is actually about whether item 11.4 and the decision in 11.4 would impact 11.3. And I wonder if perhaps a more fulsome discussion about both items could take place so that I guess I'm looking for an answer on item 11.4 that would impact how I proceed with 11.3. That's why I'm asking the question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. Imran, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Through you. I don't believe it should impact the award of the tender itself. It's a tree removal, and if council decides otherwise for that decision, we can always explore that option. It would probably, we'd have to explore how we would go about it. But the tender itself is a pretty major project, and really we need to work out how we will work with that tree around this project and what options can be there.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further questions for Imran or this Councillor Klopp, and then Ginn, please.
Thank you. Is this the process that we've done for all our major streets? How this, it's over a 3-year period? Is this something new that we're trying?
Okay, thanks for the question. Imran, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Do you mean in terms of funding or just phasing it out as a construction project?
Well, both, I think, sir. Yeah.
The funding, I don't believe so, but in other projects, yes, like for Seaforth, we did break it down into 2 phases. We split up the project into 2 sections, and we're doing something similar here. The 3rd phase for the surface course is just something we learned through experience. It's best to leave the surface course asphalt for another year. So yeah, in general, we do split it over a couple of years to break down the cost a little bit.
Okay, thank you for that. A follow-up, Councillor Klopp, please.
Okay, that helped me a little bit. Thank you. But I'm reading this that we're tendering it for 7 million and they're going to be paid over that over the 2 or 3 phases. But then when you were explaining it to me, and that's where I got a little lost, it's going to be, hopefully this is what it's going to cost. So could you, to be clear, this Van Bree understands they're going to be doing this over 2 or 3 years, and this tender is the amount.
That is correct. So if I can clarify, the tendered costs will not change for the total of the project. It is the consulting fees, the contract admin, and allowances for other portions, utilities, and everything that we're not 100% sure on. So the total cost is not expected to change on this tender, barring any scope changes or anything. There is a contingency allowance in the project as well that will cover any additional work.
Okay, you're happy with that. Thank you very much, Imran. Past Warden Ginn, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to commend the roads department from the county. I know when we did the reconstruction in Clinton, they get to be very complicated projects, and I think our taxpayers, who is the same one, certainly appreciate the fact that we can work together and solve all the problems at once, because they're complicated and they're expensive. So I'm just glad to see that we can work together between the county and the lower tiers.
Collaboration is a wonderful thing when we all work together and don't care who gets the credit. Any further questions or comments to either Imran or our technical expert, Mr. Erb? Councillor Klopp? Oh, you would move the acceptance of this report, and a seconder by Councillor Finch, that the report entitled Dashwood Reconstruction be received for information, the contract awarded in the amount of $7,007,153 to Van Bree Drainage and Bulldozing with the appropriate bylaws compiled. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you very much, Imran, and to Mr. Erb for joining us this morning. 11.4 is the staff report on the removal of a tulip tree, part of the Dashwood reconstruction. Imran, would you like to speak to this report at all, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warren. Through you. So at the last council meeting, County Council requested a staff report regarding the removal of a tree that was requested as part of the Dashwood reconstruction project. The tree in question is a 75-year-old tulip tree that is located at 115 Main Street in Dashwood. As a part of the design process, there was a preliminary recommendation to remove the tree from BM Ross, who are the design engineers on the project. The recommendation was based on the scope of work at that location, which includes the relocation of a hydro pole and trenching associated with the underground work. The information was presented to the public at the Public Information Center, and the resident at this location requested Public Works to explore options to salvage the tree. Public Works retained an arborist to provide expert opinion on this tree based on the scope of work at this location. The arborist confirmed that due to the scope of work involved at this location, the tree would likely not survive and would be at risk of falling and becoming a potential public safety hazard. Public Works has explored all reasonable options to salvage this tree. Since it is a public safety issue, Public Works is requesting authorization from County Council to proceed with the removal of this tree based on the expert advice from both the design engineers and the arborist. Again, if Dale Erb is here for any specific questions about scope of work at this location, and yeah.
Thank you very much for that, Imran. I'm first going to go to Councillor Finch and then Councillor Noel, please.
Thank you. And through the warden, I'll be supporting our staff and the experts that were consulted on the removal of this tree. This is about public safety for today and into the future. There have been many trees removed in the past due to other projects because they needed to be, just like in this case. Dashwood Road will continue to be the busiest road now and into the future, so we need to do this project properly with a lens on safety. The arborist states in his recommendations, I would advise that the tree will not survive the construction work and should be removed. The risk of not removing the tree rests with us at this table. There will be others with separate opinions that do not carry any risk and are not liable in the event of the tree falling into a car, a house, or a person. I'm convinced that public safety must be the lens and the tools that is used to make this decision, and I'm fully in favor of supporting the recommendation.
Thank you very much for that comment. Councillor Noel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. My question actually arises out of perhaps just the way the report was worded, because it seemed to me, reading through this, that we've looked at the tree's survival based on the work being done, and we consulted an arborist about removing the tree, but it all sort of hinges on the location of a hydro pole being moved. And I didn't know whether there was any consideration of whether the hydro pole could be located in a different location, thus not impacting the tree, or if that is the only feasible location for the pole. And I think that's an important question for me as I make this decision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. I would like to defer to our engineering expert, Mr. Erb, to respond to that, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. So there's actually 2 or 3 different things that could be impacting the stability of that tree. One is sidewalk location. We're going to remove and replace the sidewalk. We're widening the sidewalk to meet AODA standards, which means we have to push it a little bit closer to the tree, about 6 inches. Doesn't sound like a lot, but we anticipate that we will be into the roots as part of that excavation work. The second one is the work associated with the municipal infrastructure, so the water service and the storm service. They have to be open cut excavated, and the connection has to be made in close proximity to where that tree is, so the roots again will be impacted. And then the other piece is the festival hydro piece. They've already cleared part of that tree, typically, you know, as part of their maintenance to ensure that they're well enough away from the lines. They do need to relocate that pole, and there isn't a lot of flexibility due to the way the support system works for hydro infrastructure. So they can move it a little bit, and the current design has already moved it slightly, but there isn't a lot of leeway there. So.
Thank you for the question. The response, Councillor Dietrich, please.
I guess my question is, where's the property line? I was stopped yesterday and looked at where the tree's located. And by this picture here, I understand where the sidewalk, I see that, but I don't understand, I don't know where the property line is. Whose tree is this? Is it the owner's tree? Is it the county's tree? Is it the municipality's tree? And I guess that's the question I have. If it's the owner's tree, then I think we need to relook at this. If it's on the county's property, then county can remove it or do whatever they like. So I think I need that for me to see whose tree it actually is. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I will defer to staff to respond to that, please.
My understanding is that the tree is partially over the property line, so more of the tree is probably on the private side, but a portion of it is also within the right of way. Dale, is that something you can confirm?
That's based on our survey information. That is correct.
And I believe Councillor Finch has something to add, please.
And whether it's on someone's property or not, the roots do extend into the county easement, correct? So we are impacting that tree regardless. So any impact we do to that tree, we're liable for.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Becker, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I also stopped yesterday and talked to the property owner. He's quite adamant it's his blank tree, and he was quite upset that this tree was going to come down. Like it got heated. And I said, I'm not going to get in an argument. I'm just come to look at it. I lived in that house 50 years ago. Tree wasn't quite as big, but it is very top heavy towards the house side. If we compromise the roots under the sidewalk and stuff, feel it's endangering the house down the road. Another question, if the tree is removed, will the new sidewalk extend east further to the new house in this contract project?
Thanks for the question. Staff, please. Imran.
Thank you, Mr. Warren, through you. That is a decision for the municipality of South Huron, but from our understanding, that is what they're proposing. They will extend it to the house. They want to extend the sidewalk. That is partially why we have to remove the tree. If the sidewalk was not being extended, you know, that would help the situation, probably not entirely, but combination of those factors, yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Noel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. One last question. I'm not sure anybody knows the answer to this. What is the estimated life expectancy of a tree, like a tulip tree like this? Is it nearing the end of its natural life anyways at 75 years?
And with that, with the construction that's proposed, Imran, please.
I don't think I have the answer to that right now, but I could reach out to the arborist and get that information. I just don't have it with me right now.
We've asked, okay, Councillor, Past Warden McClellan, please.
Mr. Warden, based on all the discussion, what I've heard, to me, it sounds like the proper thing to do would be to remove the tree to do all the construction. As an appeasement, we could offer the county to supply a new tree for the property owner, put it on their lawn. It may not completely satisfy them, but at least we're replacing.
Thank you, Warden. Good morning, members of council and senior management team. I'm here to chat about the second annual Maple Mania event that happened on March 9th and 10th. Next slide, please. So our local maple syrup producers and businesses displayed increased interest this year, resulting in active participation and involvement. We saw an event total of 1,195 participants attending 9 events at 7 sugar bushes across Huron County. Next slide, please. Each participating sugar bush offered a unique insight into the art of maple syrup making. And our participating sugar bushes this year included Amalgamation Acres Legacy Maple, Bayfield Maple, Blythe Creek Maple Farm, Coastal Coffee, Freedom Syrup, Robinson's Maple Products, and Shilby Family Maple Syrup. Next slide, please. With our partners in cultural services, the event also featured engaging and family-friendly programs across the county, including a balloon magic show at the Huron County Museum, 2 Birds of Prey demonstrations. One happened at the Alice Munro Library in Wingham and the other at the Seaforth Library. We also had 4 cookie decorating sessions with the Cookie Rainbow. 2 happened at the Blythe Library and 2 happened at the Clinton Library. The Great Maple Mania Bake Off witnessed eager participation from 5 businesses. Thanks to Warden McNeil and Councillor Bazinet for joining us and helping us judge that competition. The participating locations this year included Bayfield Berry Farm, Cowbell Brewing Co., Milk and Honey, The Den, and White Squirrel Golf Club and Restaurant, which was this year's winner. They took home the trophy for their maple cheesecake. And new this year, we had a maple market, which was hosted at the Huron County Museum. It featured local businesses selling their maple-themed wares, including Bayfield Maple Farm, Cafe Loco, Eat Local Huron, Milk and Honey, and The Den. Next slide, please. So 13 Huron County restaurants participated in our Maple Mania dining program this year, almost doubling participation numbers from last year's event. They presented inventive maple-infused dishes from March 7th through till the 17th, including items like maple chicken and waffles, maple smoked pork belly gourmet pizza, and bread pudding. Together, they served an impressive 730 dishes, reflecting a notable 52% increase in sales from last year. Participating locations included 1851 Bayfield Landing, Bayfield Brewing Company, Black Dog Village Pub and Bistro, Cowbell Brewing Co., Dark Horse Estate Winery, Danu Cellars, Eddington's of Exeter, Hessenland Inn and Shots Winery, Oakwood Resort, Part 2 Bistro, the Blythe Inn, the Little Inn of Bayfield, West Street Willie's Eatery, and the White Squirrel Golf Club and Restaurant. Next slide, please. Additionally, we had 10 cafes and bakeries that provided tasty maple treats during that time period, March 7th through till the 17th. Items included things like maple butter tarts, maple pecan tea biscuits, maple madeleines, and delicious iced maple lattes. Bayfield Berry Farm, Cafe Loco, Coastal Coffee, Milk and Honey, ShopBite Coffee Roasters, the Cookie Rainbow, the Pink Flamingo Bakery, the Purple Bite Cafe and Eatery, the Tart Shack, and Wilhelmina Bakery were our participating locations this year. Also back this year, we had 2 pancake breakfasts, which took place on the Sunday. One was hosted by our friends at the Auburn and District Lions Club at the Auburn Community Hall. They featured Robinson's maple syrup and served a very hungry crowd throughout the entire morning. And the other breakfast happened at Bad Apple Brewing Company in partnership with Bayfield Maple, and that was a sellout event. Regarding marketing and promotion, Maple Mania posters were widely distributed across the county. We had print coverage. We were featured in both the Blythe Citizen and Bayfield Breeze. We had promotional radio ads running on 2 local radio stations, and those were complemented by interviews to create some buzz for the event. Social media engagement was also impressive. We had a Facebook reach of over 84,000 and an Instagram reach of over 6,000. Our events webpage attracted over 3,200 visits, with the top 5 visitor locations being Toronto, Goderich, Clinton, Bayfield, and Exeter. And this event could not have been made possible without our Huron County maple syrup producers. One of the most rewarding things to staff about this event is the active participation and collaboration with those local producers. This is definitely a sector in the county that puts in the time and resources into an event like this, and they offer so much support to us and the execution of the event, and that of course, comes through with the success of the event. So overall, Maple Mania was a success this year, attracting significant participation and interest during one of our tourism shoulder seasons. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alicia, for a powerful report. That was a great presentation. This is a very, very positive event. When you see all the ages, the youth involved in this, this is very positive for Huron County in a shoulder season. Questions or comments, Alicia, on this? Councillor Becker, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Great report, and it's like you just said, Mr. Warden, all the ages that come out to these events, because a lot of younger families have never experienced being in a bush, seeing the maple syrup being made and everything else. I know I grew up through it, but the younger generation, they don't see it unless they get out there. Thanks again.
Thank you very much for those positive comments. Any further questions or comments? Again, thank you very much for bringing this to us. It was a pleasure to collaborate with Councillor Bazinet in the judging of this at the museum. So thank you very much for that, Ali, and well done to all of the involved. I would entertain a mover and a second to receive this report for information purposes. Councillor Anderson moves and Noel seconds. All in favor of the report. And that is carried. Thank you. Brittany Wise, would you please come to the podium to respond to any questions on the Small Business Enterprise Centre? Brittany does a tremendous job with this. We have the report. Do we have any questions of Brittany on this at this time, please? Seeing none, great report. Well done, Brittany. Thank you very much. And I would entertain a mover and a seconder to receive this report with the extension of the agreement and the appropriate bylaw be drafted. Jay Dietrich and Councillor Finch. All in favor of the motion. And that is carried. Thank you very much. And thanks again, Brittany. Economic Development, Vicki Loss, our Director. 12.3, please, on the 2023 annual report, Vicki.
Thank you, and through you, Warden, to Council. I just wanted to note that we did put up a hard copy at each of your stations today for you to review. It is a pleasure to bring you this report. Over the last few years, we have been reorganizing, focusing, strategizing to have the greatest impact possible through all of our lines of business, including our Economic Development Board. And we felt that this year was a wonderful time to consolidate that and show you what we have accomplished over the last year and to highlight some of our key initiatives. So we hope that you enjoy the report, and I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you very much for that, Vicky. Do any members of council have any questions or comments to Vicky on this very well done report? Very active. Economic development is tremendously important, and Huron County is a leader in this. Seeing none, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to receive this report as presented, and that would be P. Heffer and Councillor Bazinet. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you very much again, Vicky. Under Administration, Policies and Other Issues, 13.1 is the 2023 Annual Report Promotion. Aaron Samuel is joining us this morning to respond to any questions that Council may have. Do we have any questions to Aaron? Past Warden McClellan, please.
No questions, Mr. Warden, but thank you very much. I asked that we try and find more ways to get this report out to the public, and after reading this, I think they did a great job. Thank you.
Point well taken. Comms is so important, controlling the messaging, and our staff do a tremendous job on that, and thank you very much to all involved with our communication team. Would I have a mover and a seconder to receive this report for information purposes, please? Councillor Bazinet and Finch. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you, and thank you very much for everything you do for all of us. 14 is correspondence. Number of correspondence items. It has been broken out to previously supported. Is there anything that anyone would like to pull on this? And it would be Councillor Finch first, and then Councillor Harding.
Yeah, thank you. Through Warden, 14.6, 0.7, and 0.8, please.
6, 7, and 8 has been noted. Is there a seconder to pull 14.6, 7, and 8 to support? Councillor Van Stone seconds. All in favor of this motion? Opposed? It is carried. Thank you. And now to Councillor Harding.
14.9, please.
Okay. Access to natural gas. Do we have a seconder for that? Jay Heffer. All in favor of the motion to support 14.9? And that is carried. I thank you. Is there anything else that anyone would like to support? And if not, seeing none, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to accept the correspondence not specifically dealt with for information. Jay Dietrich and P. Heffer. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. I thank you. If there is any unfinished or new business under 15, please contact the CAO so that it could be placed on a future published agenda. Does anyone have a notice of motion that they would like to bring forward at this time for a future meeting? Seeing none, we do have a number of bylaws, and I would entertain a mover and a seconder to give first, second, and third and final reading to the 4 bylaws in print. Councillor Noel moves. Councillor Finch seconds. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thank you. We do have a close to the public session today. So with that, I would entertain a mover and a seconder. Do we go into our closed session at 10:28 under Section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to discuss an item that relates to labor relations and employee negotiations, homes for the aged, and further that CAO work. Clerk Susan Cronin, Corporate Service Bloomhagen, Human Resources Laura Van Stone, and Connie Townsend and Aaron Samuel remain in attendance.
Something to say before we come to close.
Okay. Past Warden McClellan would like to make a comment.
I have a question, Mr. Warden. The way it's worded, and maybe everything is correct, I just are we going to, in this closed session, be discussing the confidential information that we received? Okay, because just the way it was worded, I wasn't sure if that report was going to be part of the discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. So with that, I have read it, and I would entertain a mover and a seconder for it. Jay Heffer, Jay Dietrich, all in favor of the motion? That is carried. I thank you very much to all members of the public that are joining us. And I would like to indicate that we will recess. It is 10:29 now until 10:35, and we will resume in our closed session to allow our clerk an opportunity to secure the meeting. So Huron County Council is now in recess.
Thank you, Warden. At this time, we will be moving into a close to the public session. So those that are attending virtually, if you would like to stay until the end of closed session and the wrap up of the meeting, I ask that you say yes to the panelist invite that I'm going to send you. If not, you can either disconnect or I will be disconnecting you. I'm going to give you a couple moments to make that decision. Thank you. And then we need a motion.
Okay, with that, we are back in open session. I will entertain a mover and a seconder to rise from our closed session at 11:41 a.m. Councillors Noel and Becker, all in favor of the motion. That is carried. CAO reporting out of our closed session, please.
Thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Warden. Purpose of going into close today was for council to receive information relating to labor relations, employee negotiations with our Homes for the Aged department.
Thank you very much for that. And I will entertain a mover and a seconder that the Council of the County of Huron direct staff to proceed as per direction given in the closed session to the public of April 17th, 2024. Councillors Noel and Past Warden Gann, all in favor of the motion. And that is carried. Thank you very much. I would like to note our upcoming meetings tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Cybersecurity. That involves every municipality in Huron County and the county. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of this for security. And that is a 9 a.m. virtual meeting. And the link, I think, has been forwarded both from the county and our respective municipalities. Economic development, the 25th of April at 9 a.m. It is a hybrid meeting. Council Day 1 on the 8th day of May, again hybrid. Economic development the following day on the 9th. Library Board on the 15th and Council Day 2 on the 22nd of May. Hybrid meetings. With that, I would entertain a mover and a seconder for our confirmatory bylaw, please. And that is P. Heffer and Councillor Harding, that the Corporation of the County of Huron confirm the proceedings of the meeting and it be given a first, second, and third reading, be passed, and the seal of the corporation affixed thereto. All in favor of the motion. And that is carried. Thank you. And thanks very much to all members of County Council for your thoughtful comments today. And a motion to adjourn our meeting, please. It would be moved by Councillor Jay Dietrich, seconded by Jay Heffer, that we adjourn at 11:43 a.m. All in favor of the motion? Yeah. And that is carried. Thank you. Yeah.